Welcome everybody, this is Brother Mutant here. Today we're going to talk about 3 different builds. We're going to talk about Tony's, Ranger Tony's Archer build that we talked about in the last video and compare it to 2 other builds. We have a Divine Hunter, which is a straight level 20 Paladin. That is a Ranger based build. And we have the Eldritch Archer, which is another obvious Ranger or ranged based build. So those 2 builds have magic and other things going for them. They don't have fighter levels, with the exception of Eldritch Archer, which gets only maximum of, I think, level 10 fighter levels as far as the game is concerned for finding feats. So while one will lag behind because of things not like weapon specialization and greater weapon specialization for extra damage and greater weapon focus, things of that nature, it has other pluses. That's the Divine Hunter. The Eldritch Archer will miss out on some of those feats, but not all of them. A couple good ones we still get, which is really nice. And again, it also has magic to complement its attacks. So let's actually look at our first one here. So this is our Divine Hunter. I know I've labeled it as Divine Archer. It's just the name that I gave it. You have to be lawful good, so that's a thing for those of you that are concerned. I want to be an evil prick, which is not something that I suggest, but you can totally do it. You can't do it with this build. You have to be lawful good, and you have to stay lawful and good. Otherwise, if you're not, you dip out of it, and then suddenly you're no longer a paladin. You don't get your abilities, which really screws the pooch. We went with the half-orc just like Tony did on his builds. So you see the race is the same. The sex doesn't matter. We went with the same point spread, more or less. You see that we literally had to lower the dex a bit. So we started out with a dex of 18, worked it up to 22, whereas Tony starts at 20 and gets all the way up to 25. The strength, of course, was something that we wanted up then as a result. So we started off at 16 and got it to 17, which I believe Tony does as well. He doesn't get up to 17, but that's just, it makes more sense to put that odd point in something that could benefit from it. And the only stat, by the way, that can benefit, as far as I know, from an odd point is strength, because of your carrying capacity. So instead of Tony's 25 for dex, I probably would have taken his dex to 24 and then put the last point in here for strength. So his would be 24-17 if he did it the way that I would have done it. My con is not lower than his, so his is at 8, ours is at 10, so that's a plus for us, so we actually get a little more hit points out of the gate, as well as intelligence and wisdom being the same at 10 and 10. We had to pump some charisma because we are a caster and we want to be able to cast those spells, so the minimum was 14 for us total. So we did that as well. So again, 4 points invested in dex, 1 point in strength at the very, very end, and that's the overall build. You can see our damage over here at the bottom, and this is not total damage that you're going to see in a moment, but the 1d8 is from our composite bow, the plus 16 is coming from our strength bump, as well as any of these feats that we have that are applicable to us, as well as toggles from feats like Deadly Aim as being a fine example. If you go over to attack over here, you can actually see that we have a -6 to Deadly Aim, which means that we have a plus 12 to damage. So 12 of that damage is literally coming from Deadly Aim, which is nice. Now, Tony's build would get the same thing. So that's not something that we can basically call that a wash. And the attack bonus, you'll notice that our base attack bonus is 20. So it's Tony's. So again, full attack progression. So that's going to be nice. What makes this build step out is the fact that we have spells and buffs that his doesn't have. Again, caveat here. None of these builds I would consider, including Tony's, it would be soloable builds. And I say that because you're missing a lot of things. We have decent perception. We went persuasion. Athletics was just like a forethought. Same with mobility. We had like 3 points in that just in case we wanted it. So by and large, you have 2 of the 3 skills that I think that any soloing build would definitely want to have. Trickery being the 3rd. You want to be able to spot those traps, that's perception. You want to be able to pick those locks and disarm those traps, that's trickery. Perception will also help find hidden items. And then of course persuasion to get yourself out of trouble. Remember, you're basically the face of the team, since you are the only part of the team if you're running solo. So I would invest in those 3 skills if that was your thing. That's not to say that these builds couldn't do that. I don't think these builds, any of them, are capable of soloing for any real length of time. There's just too many variables coming in your face. Yes, you have decent armor in many of these builds. Some of it come on later online, but the fact that you really have no one else to take the damage means you're taking all of the damage, and I just think that would be a bad idea with the builds that's the way they are right now. The one thing that I really liked about Divine Hunter, for those of you that want to dip into Divine Hunter for like a 1 level dip to get a couple of really nice feats. One of them is you get these armor proficiencies right off the bat. You get martial weapons proficiency and shield proficiency, which is extremely nice. You get full BAB progression, no matter what levels you take in Paladin. You always get a BAB increase. So at level 1, you get a BAB of +1. Because we're at level 20, we get a BAB of 20. So it's just like a fighter. The one other thing that's really nice is for a Divine Hunter, they get Precise Shot for free. And this is excluding the point blank shot. You see how we bought that later on. We bought that, of course, in the first or second level. Not the point. Point is Precise Shot normally requires you to have point blank shot. This is not the case for this particular build. Divine Hunters get it for free at level 1, which is really nice because I can see not necessarily needing point blank shot. You will need it later on. It unlocks another feat, which we don't get here because we don't have fighter levels, which is a shame. But point blank shot, you need to unlock point blank master, and point blank master allows you to at melee range fire your arrows or whatever ranged weapon you're using, because you have to select which one you want to use it for. But obviously we pick longbow. You'd fire whatever ranged weapon you have at melee range and not provoke attack of opportunity. So this build doesn't get that. That's a big down point for it. The Eldritch Archer will, as you'll see, which is extremely nice. But again, the fact that you can switch in a pinch to a melee weapon and go shoulder and board if you want to and get a little shield protection is nice, and you're a divine caster, so it doesn't matter that you have a shield. You don't have to have arcane spell failure or anything like that is an issue. So you literally can rock that shield and pump your dexterity, your armor class a little bit higher. And not an insignificant amount too, which is kind of nice. Now notice that we only have medium armor progression, and we didn't pick heavy armor later on. You can, there's some times where I'm like, well, we'll get selective channeling, we don't really need that. I went dodge, but you could have just as easily have gone heavy armor, and you'll see when we start talking about the differences in armor classes that really does open up a big world of ooch. But the other thing you get for a level 1 dip in here is Smite Evil, and you only get one of them, which is kind of a bummer. But you can literally latch that onto a bad guy, let's say a boss, someone that you know is particularly tough, and if you have a charisma bonus, you can add that to your attack rolls for that entire fight. And then if you have paladin levels, which you only have 1, you add that to your damage rolls. So you get a +1 to damage for a 1 level dip in paladin, and if your charisma is any higher, you can have a pretty decent attack bonus on the target in question for the whole duration of that fight. You only get it once per day, but I could see, for example, on the other build that I'm not showing because it's mine and you can't have it, is the Eldritch Scion ranged build, which has a high charisma. I could actually have a pretty decent armor class bump for an entire fight just by dipping in here once, and I get that shield proficiency as well as, where does it go? Precise Shot for free. Those are two things that I wouldn't get naturally as an Eldritch Scion. And yes, I'd lose a level in Eldritch Scion, so I'm losing some things as well. For those of you that don't know, when you get to level 20 as a true Magus ability, which you'll see in our Eldritch Archer build, you can select a toggle that gives you a +2 to your attack bonus, which is really nice, a +2 to your spell penetration, which again is nice, or a +2 to your DC checks for your spells effects, which again is really nice. You only can use one at a time, so usually just leave it on the toggle for the attack bonus because that's a +2. Who wouldn't want more of a chance to hit? But yeah, I would lose out on that. But again, I would get a free feat, a couple of free feats technically speaking, and something that I could particularly use in combat. Again, only once in a while, but you know, every day make sure to use it on your heavy hitting target. But there's a lot of cool stuff that comes from being a Divine Hunter. A couple of things that you're going to get as you level up. Of course, we get our Lay on Hands ability, and again, not anything that we can really compare with Tony's because he's a fighter. He doesn't get these things. This is just like, you know, gravy on top. The ability to heal yourself, to heal others. Eventually, you'll get Distant Mercy, which will allow you to damage undead with this. You will get Channel Positive Energy since you're lawful good, so you can heal your team or the bad guys, which is also a bad idea. Or you can damage undead or your teammates that are undead, which again is a bad idea, which is why I went eventually and got the Selective Channel, which protects your team from stupidity like this. Basically, I don't heal anyone but my team, and I don't do damage to anybody but the enemy. That's what Selective Channel really does for you. And again, it's through these abilities, the Channel Positive Energy. It works for channel negative energy too, but we're obviously not evil. The same general principle. You only help the things you want to help, and you only damage the things you want to damage. That's what selective channel does. We get that Divine Hunter Bond. This is basically equivalent, as you'll see in our Eldritch Archer, the +1, the arcane weapon feat that you basically unlock free. You basically get the ability to enchant your weapon. I haven't tested this on all weapons, but I know that for certain this works on our bow, which is the only one we really care about. And it gives you a +1 enhancement to the bow, and then it goes up from there as you level up your character to a final +5 or +6. These bonuses can be added to the weapon, stacking existing weapon bonuses to a maximum of +5. That's kind of nice. Notice we can also do other things. We can add effects to it, much like the Eldritch Archer. We can make it a flaming weapon. We can't make it electric and frost, so that's the thing. But flaming is still pretty good. It's a nice buff. And you don't have to have enduring blades like Eldritch Archer does, because the buff that we're getting here is literally 1 minute per paladin level, as you see. So as we level this up steadily, we'll get up to 20 minutes per use, and eventually by the end at level 20 you finally get I want to say 4 uses a day. So that's 80 minutes eventually that you'll be able to buff your weapon, if 20 at a time. That's pretty big. And not to mention there's a couple really nice buffs in here, which we'll get to when we actually look at the character. As we level this character up, though, you see we're getting as many of the archer feats as we can from Tony's build. So you see our weapon focus, precise shot we got for free, point blank shot. I thought I was going to get it later for something else. I would still take it. It's a +1 to attack, +1 to damage, and eventually guys are going to get within range of you. You're going to have good armor, so you can probably do point blank shot okay. Rapid shot, of course, to get that extra attack. Many shot for that free attack. Deadly aim for armor class or accuracy penalty, but a massive damage bump, as you saw, +12 by level 20. Clustered shots was a nice way to basically penetrate some damage for the bad guys, since we really don't get those penetrating strikes, which are locked behind the fighter levels. So this build would never get that, which is kind of a bummer. But again, selective channel was kind of something to pick. Same with improved precise shot. You don't really need this one. I mean, yes, it's nice, and it is a ranged attacker based build pick. The reason I say you don't necessarily need it is there is an ability that you have as a Divine Hunter where you basically can give yourself and anyone within like a 10-foot radius of you improved precise shot, and I want to say point blank shot or something like that. Where is it at? Hunter's Blessing? Yeah, deadly aim, excuse me. Anyone, if you didn't have it or anyone else on your team didn't have it, you suddenly now have deadly aim, precise shot, and improved precise shot. Boom, right out the gate. And it only lasts for like a minute, and you only activate it a number of times, basically equal to your Smite Evil, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, basically you're expending your Smite Evil ability to do this. Is it worth it? I'm not going to say no, especially if you have a ranged-based team. Deadly aim, precise shot, and improved precise shot are really nice ones to have. And if your teammates haven't leveled up to any significant way to get that, boom, you can slap that on everybody around you, and now they have that ability for a minute. That could come in handy. I can see that. And again, if you did that, you didn't technically need deadly aim because you're giving it to yourself. Now the problem with this is it's using your Smite Evil, which is an amazing ability. And while our +2 to hit, because of charisma, doesn't look stellar, the damage you get is based on your paladin level to that one target. So as we start off at level 1, we get a +1 to damage. Eventually we'll unlock the ability to do +20 damage per hit to that target. Wow, that's amazing. So even if the accuracy bump isn't amazing, which we can buff this with spells, we can buff this with gear, that's always a thing. This thing with the Smite Evil on the target, now it has to be evil, and that's your other trick. So that's a caveat there, but whatever. The point is, it's still pretty pimp. And if you didn't have deadly aim, you didn't have the improved precise shot, because we get precise shot for free, remember, we could still give ourselves those other 2 feats for a minute at a time every time we used a Smite Evil ability. Again, you don't get many, and there's no way that I know of that you can get multiple Smite Evils in a day other than naturally leveling up your character. Again, you get another one every so often. By the end of it, I think you got like 6 or 7 of the damn things. So you see, here's another Smite Evil. Another Smite Evil 6 more times. Yeah, see, so we get additional uses per day. The other thing that really stands out for this build is not only the ability to lay on hands for yourself, heal yourself. There's this thing called Mercy. This basically allows you, depending which ones you pick, to remove certain status effects from characters that you heal with lay on hands. And again, we get a specific number of those per day as well. Now, why do I care about this? Well, there's ones in there that are particularly useful. So for Mercy, like we picked ones for this build, just to randomly pick shit to move stuff forward. You see we got Mercy that can remove Fatigued. So again, if I use lay on hands on someone that's fatigued, they're no longer fatigued. That includes myself as far as I know. And then same thing with, later on I got Poison, I got Disease, which I'm immune to disease, another good feature for being a paladin. I got Exhausted, which is amazing, and then Cursed, just to pick something. I mean, these felt like paladin stuff, but you can do Blinded, you can do Stunned, you can do Paralyzed. There's just a retarded number of these things that you can pick from. So if you're seeing more and more effects that are ones that I did not pick, feel free to grab those instead. But I like that, and again, something that Tony's build obviously doesn't have. The Divine Weapon Bond, again, steadily gets better and better, all the way up to level 20, where you get it finally at a +6. And again, at 20 minutes per pop, and I think you get to use it like 4 times a day. That's literally 80 minutes of buff that you have on that weapon. That's a really nice buff. And I would turn it into like a flaming weapon, or my personal favorite. Let's see if it says under here. Yeah, Brilliant Energy is a nice one. And Brilliant Energy is one that literally ignores the armor and shield armor class of the target. So something that Tony's build doesn't have as well. You buff your bow with that, and if your bow didn't have that ability, of course, you buff your bow with that, and now suddenly I'm composite bowing you right through your armor. So my attack bonus looks amazeballs compared to his, because their armor class is crap. It gets even better with the Eldritch Archer, because not only do they have that ability on their bow, or they can, they also have an ability that allows them for a short round, I think, to ignore the dexterity of a target. So now imagine this, guys. Not only do you not have your armor and your shield armor class bonus, but I can also negate your dex bonus as well. So even if it's a rogue with like crappy ass padded leather armor on, he's ignoring that +1 from that. But he has like a huge dex, or let's say a +10 or something retarded. I can make that go away too. So I'm literally swinging at a target that literally has an armor class of like around 10, maybe a little more from some buffs that I just couldn't nerf away. That's pretty huge. I mean, that's really going to be nice. From there, though, again, you get other stuff as you level up. Eventually, you get this Holy Champion, where you get some damage reduction of your own built into your character, where you get a 10 points of incoming damage is just ignored unless it's done with like an evil weapon, which is pretty huge. Also, we heal a maximum amount when we use our positive energy, or we do maximum damage potentially. I haven't checked that yet for undead, which would be nice. I don't know that for a fact, but definitely the healing works. So with lay on hands or channeling the positive energy where you heal your team and yourself, that would be full damage is healed every time. And yes, this is level 20 stuff. We're probably never going to see that. Let's see. Was there something else in here? There was something. Righteous Hunter. This one here. Divine Hunter's ranged weapons are treated as good aligned, whether they're good or not. For overcoming damage reduction, any ranged attack made by an ally within feet are also treated as good aligned. Again, that's just like an always-on aura, our aura of righteousness. This is our awesome one where we get DR5 against evil at level 17. Immunity to compulsion spells and spell-like abilities. Again, other stuff that we're getting is really nice. And then we give a bonus to our friends and allies around us, +4 moral bonus against those compulsion effects. Again, only while we're alive. There's another one in here. Was it Aura of Clear Sight? Immune to blindness, magical or otherwise. Each ally within 10 feet gains a +4 morale bonus on saving throws against blindness effects. Distance Mercy, I can heal people at range now with my Healing Touch ability, my Lay on Hands ability. Costs twice as much to do it, but you can totally do that, and you can damage undead now with that ability. Really nice. And I want to say there was another one. There we go, Shared Precision. When the Divine Hunter hits a creature with a ranged attack, she grants her allies within 10 feet of her the benefit of the precise shot feat against the target for 1 round. Her allies must remain within 10 feet of me, must be able to see and hear the Divine Hunter to gain this benefit. So obviously you can't be blinded and you can't be deafened by spells or some such effect. The reason for this being nice, again, is basically we're giving free precise shot. We still have to hit our mark, to do it, but we're probably going to do that anyway. And then any archer near us basically gets better, which is kind of nice, right? So it's pretty sweet. We get other stuff like really nice charisma bonus to our saving throws, which why our saving throws are actually pretty darn nice right now. And we can actually increase this not only another 4, thanks to an ability to increase our charisma another 8 points, which gives us another plus 4 bonus over here. So these would go from 14 to 18, 18, 18. But then if I get the item that increases my dex and my con as well as my wisdom plus 8, then I can increase these another 4 as well. So instead of being 14 to 18, it becomes 14 to 22. And that's across the board. That's a 22 saving throw by level 20 across the board for everything there. That's pretty nice. There's some limits. Yes, your alignment restriction. Yes, we have spells, which are of course nice as well, which we'll see that here in a minute. But overall, this is a pretty solid build too, and we'll do the direct comparison numbers here in a minute. I don't know why this is suddenly doing this, where it's splitting this. This is actually 18 and this is 26. And again, I don't know why this melee one is 26. That seems weird. Oh, maybe because do I have weapon finesse on this build? I must have picked it. Yeah, I picked it at the very end. There it is. Okay, I'll say, why the hell? Alright, anyway, let's look at some stuff. So here's our guy. And we have spells. Let's look at our spells book. Now remember, you are a caster. You don't get spells to level 4. Because of that, your spell progression only starts at level 4. So when we go full level 20, we only become a level 17 caster. So 17 minutes for several of those buffs that last 1 minute per level. That's all you're going to get. Still pretty good. And again, ways for you to increase your attack rolls. Things like Bless is really nice. We're going to have, until you get magic gear, you can turn on things like Bull Strength, or, well, we don't have Cat's Grace in this one. But again, we have ways to increase our wisdom, and we have ways to increase our charisma. So anything that based off of those, while those are on, we have those effects. So they're really nice. Some resist energy, some nice defense buffs, a couple attacks, nothing stellar to really write home about. And there's a couple in here that are pretty good. There's some that I just say, what the hell are they thinking? A 1-round effect, really, fellas? And that's really going to help you a ton. But lesser restoration, once you get to level 4, you'll be able to do that. That's kind of a nice bump for your team. Divine Favor is another really good one. Only lasts a minute, never more than a minute. Maybe it can be extended with meta magic feats, but I'm not going to pick meta magic for a character like this. So it's possible you can go with 2 minutes. I don't know that. But you start out at the first level that you get this, you can do +1 damage and +1 attack bonus, and it's a luck-based bonus, so it stacks with these other bonuses you're going to get. So that's nice. As you level up, eventually you get to I'll say a level 9 caster. You can cast this and get a +3 to your attack, +3 to your damage, and again for a minute. Nice little buff to have. Helps put you up and over the top. Blessed Weapon early on is going to come in handy too. Basically an overcoming damage reduction. You basically treat your weapon as good, magic, excuse me, for the purpose of overcoming DR. It also becomes good aligned. Yeah, okay, I knew there was more than just that. In addition, all critical threats against evil foes automatically confirm. So every threat is a critical hit. That's worded poorly, I think, in my opinion. That doesn't mean every attack you do is a critical hit. That means every time that you could have critted, you will crit. Now, obviously, this would not work, I assume, on those creatures that are immune to crit. There's certain classes that are like that too, where you're immune to crit once you get to a certain level. So I would assume that is an effect as well. But that's a really nice bump, especially since you're doing it at range. Let's see. Notice that we have effortless armor. It's not something I really write home about. A lot of people are going to look at it and go, "Ooh, it's the same as what the fighters get." Not really. It doesn't give you extra dexterity added to your armor that you can use. So this class is going to be lacking in armor class because of that. However, we have spells to counter stuff like that. So protection from evil, protection from chaos, +2 deflection armor class bonuses. Stuff like this is going to help us a bit. And we have other things, auras and stuff that'll prevent attacks and stuff that gives us damage reduction. The ability to remove curses are nice. Prayer, which is really nice, low duration, buff/debuff. It's a buff for your team and yourself, and a debuff for allies or enemies in the area. For attack rolls, weapon damage saves, and skill checks. Really nice ability. You have other things that you can do to like screw over the bad guy. I like this particular buff right here. Basically, until they attack you and hit you, they suffer from a -2 to attack rolls, saving throws, and armor class. Once they hit you, that effects wear off on them. Now, that doesn't mean the spell's off. It just means on the guy that hit you, he's no longer affected. His allies, the bad guys that are swinging alongside him, are still under the effect until they make contact. So this is a nice way to, kind of delay damage, if you will. From there, of course, you got, of course, your cure spells. I should point out that you do have your cure spells. We have cure moderate wounds, cure serious wounds. But again, we already have other stuff. Eagle Soul was an appealing looking one to me. Increase your holy power, +2 sacred bonus to armor class, +4 sacred bonus to strength. Nice. And since we're using a composite bow, that's going to be helpful. Resistance acid and fire, +5 sacred bonus on all persuasion when used to intimidate, which is something we probably could have capitalized on in this build, but we didn't. Checks against evil, +2 on initiative checks, fast healing 2. All good stuff there. Doesn't last long, but it's a really nice spell, I think. Death Ward, of course, can't say enough good things about Death Ward. Restoration's up in here as well. Break enchantments up in here as well. There's a lot of good stuff here as you level up, and of course, Holy Sword. Now, well, some people are gonna be like, well, but I can already bless my weapon with that ability. Sure, but I can also have a spell that does it, and I don't have to waste it if it's like a short skirmish. Something that it's not gonna be a fight that lasts for more than like 10 rounds or something. Use Holy Sword, save that 20, 18 minute, 17 minute buff to your weapon, right? But yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in here. This is the greater version of that angelic aspect. So again, a lot of stuff that you get for being a paladin. Not to mention all the abilities you get. Now, of course, here's our Smite Evils, which we can use for other things as well. Lay on Hands others, lay on hands self. We have our channeling, one that will damage the undead, one that will heal us and our teammates. We have the Divine Hunter Bond, that's our weapon buff, right? So you only get 4 uses a day. We have Distant Mercy, it's half of these ones because I use twice as much to do it. And again, I can use it to damage undead, or I can use it to heal at range. Hunter's Blessing, this is a really nice one here. Again, I think that's uses off your Smite Evil. Yeah, that's the one that's deadly aim precise and improved precise shots granted to you and anyone around you. That's a friend. I'm assuming your friends. Hopefully it's not buffing the bad guys, because that would suck. Here's your Flaming Weapon, Keen Weapon. That's basically increasing our crit range, right? So if you don't have a keen bow, or whatever they call it, basically, or have the improved critical feat, you basically provide it for yourself by burning up some of your attack bonus, your magical enchantment of your bow. Same with the Flaming. Axiomatic, you get this one later on because you're lawful good. You get the Axiomatic and Holy by default. So basically you can do more damage to chaotic, you can do more damage to evil, which is nice. It currently doesn't suck up the 2 points that it says it does. I think everything's been only taken one away from your attack bonus. So everything's always seeming to be the full attack bonus. Your magical enchantment of +1 through +6. It always takes 1 away, and that's it. Speed. This one is a game changer. This one, literally, since you don't have access to haste spell. Now, yes, Tony's build can get that with potions. Tony's build can get that with using scrolls. People can bless him with it. So that's a thing. I'm not trying to say otherwise. But this one is built into your character as you level up. You get it for free, basically, as you level up. This allows you to take a modifier penalty. So your +6 bow could be a +3 bow now, in theory. They haven't fixed that part yet. But the speed does work. It doesn't stack with haste spells, but it does work. And I've confirmed this with your rapid shot. So while rapid shot gives us an extra attack round, this one will also give us another attack round, a full attack bonus. So we're getting like 3 to 4 arrows off in a round from this rapid shot and many shot into someone's chest right off the start with full attack bonus. Yes, we get a -2 penalty here, but we're buffing like crazy, so that's not going to be a big thing. And once we activate this, we'll probably make our weapon enchanted to the level that it counters that -2 penalty anyway. So that's really nice. And of course, the coup de grace of it all, the brilliant energy one that basically ignores armor. Remember, notice this doesn't work on undead constructs or objects. It's a big thing. So for people that are like, oh, undead horde, let's brilliant energy up and go attack them with my bow. Shouldn't work. So that's not a thing. Go for speed. Go for flaming, more likely than not. Hell, it's probably evil. So you can probably do that one and get some extra evil damage. So that's cool. So again, a nice build. It's not my favorite. Again, I love my Magus builds, but it's decent. It's got a really nice strength after everything's said and done, which we can increase further with gear. Again, something else we'll talk when we get to the spreadsheet. Charisma can benefit from it. Con can benefit from it. Dexterity can certainly benefit from it. So it's really, really solid. It's not in any stretch of the imagination gimped, in my opinion, by not getting the fighter stuff. Yeah, Tony's will do more consistent damage. And then you'll see this again when we talk about the Eldritch Archer build. His will still do more consistent damage, and that's really your saving grace. And yes, you can buff Tony's build. You can give him the best gear. You can give him the best bow, and you should. But if your choice is between this, my other Eldritch Archer build, or Tony's build, how do you play? Do you want to set and forget? Do you want to not have to worry about buffs and debuffs and all that fun stuff, and just rock the AI and just let him do his thing? Go with Tony's. This one here, you can control and micromanage it and do some really good stuff with it. Same with the Eldritch Archer build. And that's, I think, the difference between the play style between them. So now we looked at that one. Let's look at the other one before we get to the spreadsheet. So we're loading. No, not a storm. Okay. So here is my Eldritch Archer test build. Notice that the strength isn't as high. So there's a thing right off the bat. You don't get the 17 like you saw in the last guy. You only get 15. And then that's the last point you spend at the end. So it started off at 14. The deck started out as 18. Worked it with 4 points in a row to get it to 22. Con's still at 10, so we still got that advantage over Tony, but we kind of need it because he's a fighter and only an Eldritch Archer, so we don't have as many hit points anyway. I needed to put points in intelligence to get my spellcasting up to full spellcasting ability. Obviously, more intelligence would mean more spells a day, but it shouldn't really impact a whole lot more than just that. Wisdom, of course, and Charisma are both at 10 as well. This one's an interesting build because not only do we get some fighter level stuff, so we get some damage and some abilities like Greater Weapon Focus, something that we couldn't get on the previous Divine Hunter build. Because we have fighter levels, we get access to those things. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say I would have grabbed it. We don't have as many cool buffs that the Divine Hunter gets as far as buffing our attack bonus. Those are kind of few and far between on the Magus side of things. So I said, what the hell, let's grab it. And that's more just to show that it's there. I could totally see losing this one because it's only a +1 with a bow, guys. I mean, really, there's all kinds of stuff you can do to get that +1 back. And get something like dodge if I didn't have dodge already built into this build. But again, point is there's all kinds of ways you can make these builds. We got some extra damage. And again, some of that's because of deadly aim. Notice how we only get to -4 instead of the -6 that you saw in the previous builds. Remember, we don't get full base attack bonus progression like a fighter or a paladin does. And deadly aim goes off of increments of 4 for your base attack bonus. So once you get base attack bonus of 4, you get deadly aim, that's a 1. -1 penalty, and then a +2 damage. Then when you get to 8, it's a -2 penalty, +4 damage. Then you get the idea. Keep going up for 4. So that 12, 16, and 20. Well, we don't get to 16 or 20. We can only get up to 15 in this build. So we're a little behind the curve. So that's 4 points of damage less than what you saw from the other two guys. But what else do we get? Because of this, we can also get the ability to do it. Well, here, let's actually just look at the points. So stuff that sticks out on this one that's different than the Divine Hunter build. Well, you see we get martial weapons proficiency, so all that still works. We start off with light armor. We don't get medium off the bat, but eventually work our way into having not only medium, but also heavy, and those are free as a Magus. The only reason those are free is as you level up, the arcane spell failure falls off. So you get basically proficiency with the armor, and then you also don't suffer from arcane spell failure. So this allows me to be a full level caster in this build as a Magus, of course, wearing heavy armor by the end of the build. That's just pretty damn sweet. I get stuff like weapon specialization, which is really nice, some extra damage from that. I'll get point blank master, which the paladin didn't get. I don't remember if improved precise shots. No, he had that. You got greater weapon focus. Yeah, he didn't have that one. Combat reflexes, I just picked something at the end here. I could have went with dodge. I probably should have went with dodge, because I did on the other build. But the extra arcane pool, that's how you basically activate your weapon. And since it's going to be such a steady feature in here, I figured what the hell, at the very end, I splurged a little bit and grabbed it as a feat. Not to say there wasn't better stuff out there, but we still got all the main hits. The clustered shots, the weapon specialization, deadly aim, many shot, rapid shot, weapon focus, precise shot, point blank shot, all that good jazz. We still stayed as a half orc. This would not be the race I would pick for this particular build. I don't see that we're getting a lot unless you're really working on this intimidating thing here, or having a specific weapon in mind. And this is where Tony's build again shines. The ability to use great axes. They're just proficient with them right off the bat, or falchiones. I'm pronouncing that right. They just can use them, period. Doesn't matter if they have the feat or not. They just, boom, here you go. So if you start seeing great axes that are awesome, his fighter build, you could specialize in other weapons besides your longbow. You wouldn't want to, but if you saw a badass great axe, you could benefit from that now, and that could be something that would be, I could see a plus. Or ferocity, which the game seems glitched on this one. Seems like all my teammates get this, even if they're not orcs. So I don't know if that's a mistake or I'm just seeing it right. Point is, though, there's a lot of good stuff in here. The ability to recall spells is extremely handy. I found that out the other day, but that's use your arcane pool points. Again, another reason for grabbing this, because you're going to burn through them pretty quick that way. If you really need that spell back, though, you can't take any spell recall, and you get improved spell recall later on, which basically takes the level that you're learning. Normally it's whatever level you're learning again, takes that many arcane pool points. So if it's a level 1 spell, it takes 1. If it's a level 6 spell, it takes 6. That's a big owie. But if you need it, you need it. When you get an improved version of that, it takes half the level to account for how many pool points it takes. Minimum of 1. So even a level 1 spell will still cost you 1. A level 2 spell will still cost you 1. But once you get to that level 6 spell, it only costs you 3 now. That's kind of nice. Let's see. Other stuff that we got in here. I mean, we got our frost, our shock, our keen, our flaming weapon bonuses. You'll see that later. So all the same stuff that you saw before with the addition of the frost and the shock. The enduring blade, we need to get that because unlike the paladin build, we don't get to make it a minute per caster level or per magus level unless you have this activated. Otherwise it's like 1 minute, which is okay. I mean, this uses another point, so instead of it costing 1 point to activate your weapon bonus, it costs you 2 now. And everyone's going to be like, well, why would I want to use 2 instead of 1? Well, because as you level up, that 1, if you're going to be multiple fighting, which you're probably going to be in those dungeons, you'd rather have the buff last for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, than 1 minute and use that 2 separate times, right? Because it only lasts for a minute. If this is activated, yes, it costs you 2 now, but it lasts for a minute per magus level, which means at the very end, 20 minutes a pop, which is a really nice bump. We get, again, the speed buff, again, works with several things in this build, which is really why this build kind of like exceeds my expectations. 1, we get spell combat. 2, we get spell strike. Basically, this is like an extra attack around, whether it's a spell and then you attack, or spell through your weapon and then attack. Either way you look at it, you're basically hitting with a spell. So, as well as your bow multiple times. From there, we also have rapid shot. It stacks with that, so we get an extra attack thanks to spell combat / spell strike. We get an extra attack thanks to rapid shot. We get an extra bow shot thanks to many shot. We get an extra attack thanks to speed. So again, just a ridiculous number of stuff that we're going to basically get with this build. Not only do we get the brilliant ability, which is basically the one like I mentioned with the divine hunter, where we can ignore their armor or their shield armor class, and their shield armor class, and basically just go off of their dexterity, their natural armor class, and some other stuff. We have the ability to affect incorporeal targets, removing that 50% damage reduction that they get from all magical weapons. We just basically do full damage now. This is something we get that they don't. Again, really nice. But Brilliant Energy was the one that we talked about before. We get it too. We also get, since I went lawful good on both of these builds, I get the holy and the axiomatic. If you went evil, this is why this build's almost kind of nice, because you can go chaotic evil and then you affect lawful or good characters. In this game, I don't think that's a great idea, though. I don't think there's a whole lot of lawful / good characters. There are plenty of evil characters. There's plenty of chaotic characters. Obviously, neutral, you wouldn't want to use either of those buffs, but that would work for any way you go. So, But this last one here, the Arcane Weapon Bane, this one's amazing. +2 bonus to your attacks and your damage, and as well as a 2d6 to any foe you're swinging at, and that's per arrow. That's huge. That's a really, really, really nice ability. Now I don't know that that actually stacks with many shot. I should check that. That the many shot arrow does Bane damage. I think it does, but we'll have to look at that at some point. We get the True Magus ability that I mentioned before. That's the +2 to attack rolls, or I could do +2 to my spell DC or my spell penetration. Usually I just leave it on the attack bonus. That's for going all the way to level 20. And again, of course, our arcane pool points. We get Magus proficiencies. The reason this build is also nice too is as we level up, we get bonus Magus feats, and our Magus feats basically can include those archer feats. So we're actually not quite as good as Tony, where he gets like 20 plus of them from level 1 all the way to level 20. He gets like a feat at every damn round. We don't quite do that well, but we get like 3 more feats than the paladin did. So that's a thing. So I kind of dug that. And of course our spells are a little different. We get improved spell combat. That's only to prevent us from being distracted. The fighter training is amazing. I mentioned that before. The improved spell recall, again I mentioned that already. This is our heavy armor training. Once we get that, again we can now use heavy armor, and therefore we can use it as well as not suffer from arcane spell failure because of it. And again, greater spell combat, that's just more concentration check stuff. We get greater spell access. Remember, we have, because this is an Eldritch Archer, I was pointing this out right now, we get a spell book proper, which means we can scribe scrolls into our book. As long as it's part of our spell list, we can scribe those spells into our book, and poof, we have a really nice spell book. So picking spells a day will suck, but picking your spells as you level up is less of a concern. As long as you have a scroll later that you can get the one, oh, I should have grabbed this one. Well, you find that scroll, scribe that scroll, boom, now you have it. That's cool. So I kind of dug that. Okay, so now we flashed out of there because my game is locked up, and I'm not real sure why, but that's okay because I wanted to show you stuff on here anyway. So here's my spreadsheets. Let's go to our hard data and we see what you got here. So we have, let's see. So this was Tony's. And I've recalibrated some stuff here, and you'll see on another page where we talk about comparison charts for his armor class because it's really misleading. First of all, you see that these aren't here. It's because it's on a different page. So again, that's a little misleading. So there's an issue there. Here is our list of feats. And again, I'm not real certain that that's what he would want to pick. So there's all kinds of ways to change this up. We did not get dodge in this build. So dodge will be one of the reasons that his armor class isn't as good as it could be. That's a thing. But he gets plenty of attacks around. As you can see, very quickly he gets up to 2, and then from there just keeps going up and up and up. At the very end, you can see that I suggest his best armor at level 20 would probably be full plate mail. He gets with his dexterity and being just not enchanted at all, he gets a 24 to his armor class. If it's enchanted, obviously it would go higher. Full plate mail for flat-footed, he gets that 19 for his armor class, again, plus whatever's enchanted. And then, of course, when it's a touch attack, he loses his armor, but he gains his dexterity still. And instead of it being 11, which is what it should be, because he's a fighter and level 20, he gets it all the way up to 15, which is really, really nice. And those are because of those increases at 3, 7, 11, and 15 that basically add some dexterity back into your armor. Armor limits, the higher, the bigger, the more heavier the armor, the more heavier, that's some good English right there. The heavier your armor, the worse your dexterity bonus that gets applied to your armor class. In some cases, you get 0, and that's half plate mail, which sucks ass. Full plate mail oddly gets a +1. No, so that means you get a 9 for the armor, and a 10 for being a normal person, because everybody gets 10. So 10 plus 9 is 19. If you have a dexterity score that gives you at least a +1 or greater, you get that +1 added to the armor class, so 19 becomes 20. So that would be a typical full plate armored person. The best you would expect is a 20 from just non-magical full plate. In this case, he can get to, because of his fighter training, he can get to 24. So it caps out for him at that level, which means that his dexterity would cap out at 18. That's the +4 bonus that we're talking. Oh, sorry. I need +5 bonus. So 20. If your dexterity goes no higher than 20 and you went fighter, you could still get that 24. He obviously has gone higher. He's gone from 20 all the way to 25. So that's 2 more points, but that's 2 points that are wasted. Not wasted, it's useful in that he's using it for his attack bonus. That's why he's a ranged attacker. But as far as armor class is concerned, he could have gotten higher if he'd maybe gone somewhere else. Or used more of his dexterity, excuse me, if he'd gone somewhere else. Notice his breastplate is a close second at a 23. The flat-footed, though, drops from a 19 to a 16. But his touch attack goes from a 15 to a 17 because he can use more of that dex bonus thanks to those feats as he levels up. So that's really, really nice. And again, we've already gone over his damage. Let's look at some other guys' stuff, though. So here we have the other 2 guys. And again, I'm still tallying on another sheet for this one because this one's the Eldritch Archer. And it gets weird because much like Tony, as we level up, we get different things. So as we level up this character, I start out with light armor, and then I can wear medium armor, and then I can wear plate mail, or heavy armor, excuse me, well, obviously plate mail. And those are at specific milestones. So like here's plate mail. I just made a little note for myself. Heavy armor, plate mail. Medium armor will be all the way over here. Does that look like level 7? And at level 1 through 6, then I'd have to use either no armor at all, or bracers of armor class, which anyone can use, or light armor. And then I can still cast my spells, which is definitely worth it. But that's our thing. Again, you see my attacks compared to Tony's. He goes from 1 attacks per round, 1 to 2, 4, 5, and finishes off at 6. Look at mine. I start off at level 1, technically being able to do 2 attacks a round. Why is this possible? It's because of ranged spell combat. I'm allowed to cast a spell and then shoot an arrow, right? If I want to channel it through the arrow at level 2, I can do that, but it's still technically, as far as I'm concerned, 2 attacks. I cast my ranged touch attack, I knock my arrow, I shoot my arrow, it hits, it does damage for the spell and damage for the arrow. So it's still 2 attacks around. So already I'm beating Tony on the number of attacks around. Yeah, it's not going to be stellar, and my accuracy is going to be sucky compared to his, because remember, my base attack bonus isn't as good, my dexterity isn't as good. His starts off at 20, mine's at 18, so there's penalties here that's going to be applicable. But he will steadily, as far as attack bonus, surpass me by leaps and bounds. He gets from 6 all the way to 25. I start out at 4, finish up at 17, 19 if I get some magical enchanted, or sorry, if I turn on my true magus ability. Yeah, that's why. And that's a thing. But I can also enchant my bow. I can cast spells to get my armor or attack bonus back up. So there's things that I can do he can't. Granted, he could be buffed by his teammates, and then we're basically in the same boat again, where he trumps me again. But for self-sufficient abilities, this is a pretty good build. Notice how I get all the way up to like weird stuff like 5 attacks around, where it's actually technically can be 7. How is this possible? Okay, so let's walk you through it. So we can cast a spell in combat. That's a thing, right? We got ranged spell combat / spell strike, either of them. Basically, it's the same thing. It's just, am I casting a spell and then doing an attack with my arrow, or am I casting a spell through my arrow and then shooting the arrow? Either way it works, it's still going to be the same. So it's not cumulative. It's one or the other. That's fine with me. And then, of course, I get in rapid shot, but that's included in the jump from 1 to 2, as far as I'm concerned. So how am I getting this extra one? Speed. Yeah, 4 to 6 right here. It's because of the speed buff that I can slap on the bow. Yes, Tony's bow could get that effect as well. I can make that effect. Doesn't matter what kind of bow I have. If it's an enchanted bow that didn't have speed, I can add it to it. So I can guarantee that I get that extra attack, which is why you see double. So instead of 5 to 6, it's 5 to 7. It's because of that speed bump. And again, haste spell would work on Tony as well and give him the same general principle or effect. But the point is I have it with just a click of a button, and bam, I have it on my bow now, which is kind of nice. Other stuff, again, we'll get into damage here in a minute, but let's go down and just keep going with the best armor class / attacks and attack bonuses that we got for our Divine Hunter now. Again, assuming the same everything except for stats. Stats here are 16 to 17, so that's a little nicer than the last guy you saw. He had minus 14 to 15, which is subpar. Dex 18 to 22, that's the same. Con, Intelligence, Wisdom are all 10. Charisma's at the 14 here, and so the Intelligence at 16, so that's a thing. But that's needed for our feats and for our paladin-like abilities just to make them less than crappy. And again, we get like some extra stuff because of the charisma bonuses, which are nice, kind of thanks to Smite Evil, for example. We get attacks per round. It's slow going. It really is. And 1s, 2s, 3, finally get up to 4s. Then we get to 5 to 6, and that's because of the speed. And again, remember, rapid shots here, so it's just included. We assume all toggles that make sense are on. So rapid shot will be on at all times. That's one of the reasons why we go from 2 to 3. Fairly certain. Oh, from 1 to 2, excuse me. And then 3 jumps right after that, because that's the next attack. Shows up at level 6, and then 11, and then 16. But then again, from there, we go from 3 to 4 quickly, and then it jumps from 5, possible 6 thanks to the speed bump here, and 6 to 7. So again, really nice numbers. Keeps up with Tony, if not surpasses them at some point. Armor class, this one, I actually have calculated this stuff out for the breastplate. As we level him up, he's basically a straight shooter. It's basically, the best he can do, remember, unless we invest in it, is medium armor. He gets it for free at the level 1. Breastplate's the best armor he can get then at level 1, assuming that you don't come to some enchanted badass armor. By and large, if it's medium or light, that's where you want to go. Breastplate's the hopeful best one you want to find. He starts out with 19, steadily gets it up to 20 finally at the very end, and that's only because of dodge. And I picked it with a question mark because there's other stuff we could have gotten. So I figured, what the hell, we'll give him a little more armor class bump, because he's the one that's really suffering compared to the other 2 builds. Flat-footed, of course, he gets only the 16 from the plate itself, the breastplate itself, an extra 6, so 10 and 6. Then, of course, dodge is taken away, so we don't even get that here. For touch attack, it kicks back in, though. And you see we get 14s, eventually we get to 15, and then 16. This is basically, oh, sorry, that's if you're using a chain shirt to studded leather, to leather to finally padded or naked. So basically you start out here with a chain shirt, and as you steadily get more dexterity in this build, because you start out with a +4, and chain shirt can take full effect of that +4 bump. You can use chain shirt and get this dexterity here to get to 14, 16 if you get something like enchanted magical spells and stuff on you. From there, though, you can literally climb higher and higher, and to do that, you can't use the chain shirt anymore. You want to use studded leather, then finally padded or naked, and you really get your full armor class bonus thanks to touch armor class, thanks to dexterity being really, really high. So that's misleading. But it's what you can do. So basically switch out, if you know that you're coming against touch attack bad guys, switch out to something that's better, that's lower, that gives you your full dex complement. Because again, 22 is a lot better. Was that like a 6 armor class bump than having, was it only like 3 or something that you get from wearing a breastplate? So it's going to be literally 13 instead of 16 or higher. That's kind of lame sauce. So 2 different kinds of gear. And again, I put quote-unquote naked because you literally can have a lot better armor in some instances by being naked than using any armor at all, which seems kind of weird. But that's only if you got the extreme dex build, which is pretty much Tony's build, with some enchantment gear on. But attack bonuses, you see he's got some pretty good attack bonuses, much like Tony's build, because he's a fighter type. He's not a fighter, so he doesn't get all the fighter feats, but he's a fighter type, so he gets steady base attack bonus increases, so his just steadily goes up and up and up and up like you would expect. And he has buffs that will take these higher, bless, prayer, other stuff like that, to enchant his chance to hit the target. His damage is kind of lackluster. Mine isn't anything to write home about either in the Eldritch Archer build, but again, we have ways around that, so does he. But if we're just talking about regular bow swinging, his attacks really don't hit very hard compared to Tony's, which gets up to the 30s. The reason for his is weapon specialization he gets, that's a +2. Greater weapon specialization is another +2, so he gets another +4 to his arrows. I can get +2 to mine. He can't get any of those because he doesn't have any fighter levels, so he's 4 behind just because of that. So 24 could be 28, which would put him within spitting distance of what Tony's rocking. But now we have the ability to make flame arrows anytime we damn well please. So there's that. So again, bonuses, minuses, everywhere you go. Now let's look at the other side of things. All right, here's Tony's. Again, damage overall, what you can expect per round. Again, this is max damage. This doesn't count enchantments. It doesn't count flaming arrows. It doesn't count any other buffs, magical bows that you have. It counts really a regular composite longbow with no enchantments on your character, just as straight up what kind of damage can you expect. This is, of course, point blank shot damage, which is just a little bit higher, so I would actually stick with this category here, which is the regular attacks. Maximum of about 180, maximum of 180. You can go much higher with, like an enchantment to his strength. Because it's a composite bow, it allows him to basically add some strength damage bonus, 1.5 times the strength bonus to those attacks, pushing it even higher, which is why you see these numbers down here. There's other stuff we can do as well, like increase our attack bonus by having a higher dexterity. So that's a thing that can be modified as well with higher dex gear or magical enchantments. But Tony's is a solid build with that really nice armor class, which you're going to see on the next page when we do our level in armor class for fighter. I specifically broke his down based on each armor class choice as it levels, which is kind of some interesting stuff you'll see here in a moment. But short version at level 20, he can rock a really good full plate like you see here, and have not a horrible touch attack armor class at 15. It's not great, but it's what it is. There's better, but there's only better in so many things. So if you're ever flat-footed, you get screwed real quickly if you're not wearing some really good armor. There are ways around being flat-footed from what I understand in the game, but you have to dip into, say, rogue, because it's uncanny dodge that you need to get an unlock to get it, and I forget how you get that, but I know the rogues get it. It's one that's really nice. So not being flat-footed ever means you can just ignore that damn category and just focus on good stuff like touch armor class and your best armor class. And if that were the case, I'd probably say something around padded armor at max dexterity. You can get it at a 22 for your regular armor class, and then your touch attack armor class is rocking a maximum of 21. That's pretty damn high. And if you don't have to look at that pathetic S11 here, because you have that uncanny dodge ability, that goes away. So you can really have a 21 to 22 for an armor class before enchantments kick in. That's not bad. It's not a 24, but that's also not a 15. So again, you see the point. You want to look at the best of both of those two categories at that point. But again, that's if you're dipping outside of the build, which is a straight fighter build, which is what Tony has. Going on to the Eldritch Archer, we get pretty good damage, not great. I mean, again, he's looking at 180 plus, and I'm looking at 105. But I have enchantments, and then again, you see these numbers here. These are based on me doing that extra attack around, so I get extra stuff going for it. Now, some of those things again are misleading because those extra attacks aren't arrow attacks. So I should probably go back through and recalculate those numbers, because I just said, oh, I can do 2 attacks around. Technically not. I can do a spell around and then attack. So these numbers are kind of false. I would focus on these solid numbers over here next to the parentheses. There's some later on that are useful because speed is a factor. When we get that speed bonus to our bow, then we get some of these numbers. But not all these numbers are going to be accurate. So it goes up, but not as much as you're seeing here. Now, it goes up greater if I start using amazing-ass spells. Remember, I'm a bowman that can shoot ranged touch attacks through my bow. So if I really need to just, like, single target burn something down, this is the build I'd go with, the Eldritch Archer. I can focus a snowball through an arrow and do 5d8 extra damage of cold damage to it, just by casting the spell and then shooting through the arrow. I can do Scorching Ray, which is amazing, and it does not hit like you think, Tony, just so you know if you're watching this video. It hits 3 times, yes, that's still a thing. You shoot your bow. If your bow hits whatever you hit that first target with, it hits the target with the arrow, and then it goes boom, 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 3 shots in a row, back to back to back, into their chest. It's not you're shooting 3 arrows that are enchanted with the bolt, because the bolt can do 3 shots, as those of you that use the spell know. It literally is, you cast the spell, you shoot your arrow, the arrow hits the mark, does arrow damage, and then it does bolt damage, bolt damage, bolt damage, back to back to back to back. So it's just like 4 hits basically with that one shot. Pow. And then you go back to shooting with your bow. So And again, assuming you have spell strike and spell combat on, you can keep shooting with your bow. So I can shoot a ridiculous amount of times in one round thanks to spells like that, or Hellfire, Arrow, whatever the hell that spell's called. That's at level 6. This is, again, another really nice damaging one. There's a lot of good ranged touch attacks out there for a Magus that you can unlock and get. Don't know that they're all amazing. You saw my other video on that for the types of spell damage that you can do, but you have them, and because you're a Eldritch Archer, unlike an Eldritch Scion, which is what I usually play, doesn't matter if I think that the spell's not great. You can learn any spell you want that's within the spell list for the Eldritch Archer. Scribe a scroll into your book, test it yourself, prove to yourself that Disintegrate, while it doesn't look great on my paper, could be amazing for you guys. So feel free. And you do, and I have tested this, the game says it doesn't, but that's a lie. You do currently in the game, you cast your spell that could be close ranged touch attack, and you can shoot your bow, and you do get a better range than what the spell could do. And you can prove this to yourself just as a level 1 or level 2 character. Have spell strike and spell combat on, and use your ranged touch attack that's acid splash, I want to say, and it's like a close range. And pick a target, when the game's paused, pick a target, see how far you have to walk to shoot them with just acid splash. Then equip that acid splash when using spell strike and spell combat, and having a bow in your hand. Cast the spell, shoot your bow, see if you still walk the same distance. You do not. You stand farther back, you shoot that bow, it hits them, then the acid hits them. So it really does add to the range if your range is subpar. The downside is if you had a long range spell, which there's not many touch attacks like that, but if you did, it would probably suffer, meaning that you would only do the range that the arrow can do. So if the arrow can only go 50 feet, but let's say your touch attack for whatever reason can do 60, 70 feet, you would not get a 60, 70 feet arrow shot. You would only get the 50 feet arrow shot, and then your spell would hit. So that's kind of a thing. I just thought it was cool. It's not amazing, but it's definitely better than not having it. Let's see. What else can we talk about over here? We have, again, damage that's decent, not stellar like Tony's, but again, I got buffs that he doesn't. I can do spike damage that he can't, which is one of the reasons I like my build. Armor is going to be obviously my downside here, but again, I have spells that he doesn't. Mirror image, invisibility, blur, all kinds of stuff that prevents me from being hit, which is nice. This build, the Eldritch Archer build, because of the fighter dip, has the ability to get point blank master, so I can shoot arrows in your face at point blank range and not provoke attacks of opportunity. So just like Tony's, that's nice. And then that's different than the Divine Hunter over here, who can't do that. So that's a thing. But again, you see my armor class is pretty darn limited. Plate's pretty good. I get access to it, but not until the very late levels. For the interim, things like probably chain shirt would probably behoove me to have that, or studded leather. We have enough armor class at the beginning. I want to say my dex is 18 at the start of this build, so that's a +4. So chain shirt, I can get the full benefit of the 18 here, as you see here. That's pretty nice at the start. And then everything else is accurate. So I get an 18, a 14, and a 14. As I level up, I can access things like breastplate, which I probably would, because while 18 is not 19, those are pretty close, but 16 is definitely better than 14. And yes, the touch attack really suffers at this point, 13 from 14, but I'd still rather have those higher armor classes for those two out of the gate. But once you get to your best armor, full plate's the way to go if you're not facing touch attack combatants. And even then, I have spells that prevent them from hitting me, like blur, 20% chance to miss, displacement, 50% chance to miss. Screw those guys. I got ways around it. So that's a thing. Going down here now to the Divine Hunter. Again, you see consistent damage, and this damage is accurate. You can count this because this is just based off of his speed buff. That's why this is in parentheses here. So this is accurate damage on the next attack around. Again, max damage, assuming that everything hits right. So 144 to 168. Tony's is 180, so he's a little behind. But again, we can enchant that bow in ways that he can't. So that's the thing. From there, I will not get the highest armor class, which kind of sucks. I can rock a good breastplate though. If I wanted to go higher for armor class, I could always use the bracers plus 8, which is a nice trick. It's kind of a wasted slot on your character. Remember, you have to put it on your hands or whatever. Bracers are on your wrist, whatever you want to call it. So I can't use those for anything other than that bracers. And if I'm doing bracers plus 8, I'm probably picking lame-ass armor. Something that gives me a pretty high bonus to my dex, because this character's dex can go from 18 to 22 by the end of it, and that's what was that, plus 6? And I want to say leather and padded leather offer a plus 6 or a plus 8 dexterity increase. So leather would be probably okay. Padded leather would be better once you start getting that enchanted gear that gives you the plus 8 to your dexterity. You know, that's the belt, I want to say, that does that. And then padded leather beats out leather armor at that point. You're going to suffer as far as flat-footed is concerned until you find yourself some good bracers then. But that's the whole point. You can really rock these low armor with a really nice bracers plus 8. The armor is just adding whatever enchantments were beneficial. So look for the, don't look for like leather armor plus 1 and bracers plus 8. That's a waste. Leather armor that heals you, and then bracers plus 8 would be sweet. Padded armor that gives you damage reduction for whatever stupid ass reason, and bracers plus 8. That the stuff that you're stacking there is helpful at that point, because the plus 8 armor is coming from your bracers at that point. It's basically the same as wearing half plate without all the penalties. You still get your full dex bonus, so you could be naked and wear these bracers plus 8 and have a really good armor class. You know what I'm saying? So this is his armor if he just rocks out some serious dexterity bonuses for his character. So both are decent. This one heals, the other one doesn't. This one has, like that single target smite evil ability that assuming he's evil, your target, you can really put hurting on a bad guy with this because of that extra damage that comes from paladin levels. So again, these numbers are not including that smite evil ability. And you get like 6 or 7 uses of those in a damn day. So that's pretty nice. That lasts for the full fight. So if he's there and you're fighting that jackass and you know that he's the main tough guy, I'd use your Divine Hunter, just smite evil that prick and just arrow in his chest from start to finish until he drops. Then everyone else can focus on the other guys and help out with that guy. Maybe tank him off of your Divine Hunter, because he's not going to be able to tank for shit. Tony's good. Tony can tank real well. His armor class bump is amazing. His hit points are lackluster because he went for a con of 8, but he can bump that with spells, he can bump that with potions, he can bump that with gear. So he has the ability to still tank really, really well in my estimation. So I would not discount his build out. Lastly, we are going to talk about armor class for Tony's build, because his is a special case scenario. And I'll do one separate for mine as well, because of the level progression for an Eldritch Archer. Again, you start off with light armor, then you can have medium, and then you can have heavy and not suffer arcane spell failure. The question will be, is it worth it to switch? And I'll talk about that at a separate time, I'm sure, probably when I show that build off. But for Tony's build, this is, again, his info from the last page, the best armor class, basically. Flat-footed armor, no dodge because he didn't pick it. So this is his best touch attack. If he got dodge, this would go up by 1 for this category and 1 for this category. But the flat-footed doesn't count dodge, if I'm not mistaken. You can see that, again, we suggest bracers of armor class all the way even up to banded mail. Now, this is not magical banded mail. If you had banded mail plus 1, it already equals bracers plus 8. So you can throw them damn bracers to someone else and then go from there. But by and large, these ones, you need to get breastplate. I want to say it's a 6 for the armor class for it. You'd have to have breastplate plus 2 to basically ignore the bracers plus 8. Otherwise, the bracers plus 8 would definitely be better. Chainmail, I want to say, is a 6 or a 5. So again, bracers are going to be good for a while until you start finding some really good enchanted stuff. By and large, so once you get in these really low ones, the bracers plus 8 is to supplement this low-ass flat-footed amount. So once you get flat-footed, you can see here's where it's the actual armor class takes into place. So here's a 16 for breastplate. That's a 6 from the breastplate. If you had bracers plus 8 on, it'd be 18. All these numbers would be 18 if you had at least the bracers plus 8 on. Boom. So that kind of brings those numbers back up. But now let's look at it as we level him up. Okay, now this is why this is weird, because now he has a dex bonus of 5 when he starts off his character, because he's a dexterity of 20. He gets it all the way to 25 by the end, again, which I consider a waste. 24 is more than enough. That last point I would put into strength, but that's neither here nor there. Point is that he goes from a +5 to a +6 to a +7 as he progresses. The downside is with full plate, he will not get to use all that +7 dexterity bonus. Full plate only allows 1, but because he's a fighter, at level 3 he gets a 1 turns into a 2. A 2 turns into a 3 at 7. A 3 turns into a 4 at 11, and then he get all the way up to a dex bonus of +5 once he gets to a level 15 for that full plate mail. So that's why you're seeing these numbers go up, 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 even though he's not doing anything but wearing the same gear. It's his dexterity is increasing every 8th level. So 1 to 8, it goes up a point. 8 to 16, now at 16 it goes up again another point. This last one is, like I said, a wasted point. That's why I say it's a wasted point, because it doesn't give you anything. So I'd put it in strength. But at 16, he's at the highest dex bonus that he'll ever get, which is a +7 to his armor class. He can't use that in full plate. He can't even come close to using that in full plate. If he was not a fighter, he'd get 1 out of 7. In his current iteration, 1, 2, 3, 4, he'd get 5. So yes, he's losing out on 2 of those. So he's still in the negative as far as I'm concerned. But still, he's rocking a 24 armor class. That's pretty good. And then when this touch attack comes into place, which is the other point that we want to make here, he's rocking at 15 at the best case scenario. It'll never get higher than that while wearing full plate. But that's still better than what most people are rocking, which is an 11 in full plate, right? Maximum. That's assuming they even put points in the dex. So he's still doing considerably better than most, I'd say, wearing that full plate. Now here he is in half plate. Starts off an 18, works its way all the way up to a 22. It's not great. It's not the 24. And his touch attack only goes up to 14, not 15. So this is subpar in every category. There's nowhere that I see in this list where the half plate is better than the full plate. If anything, it's the subpar armor from start to finish. Don't even look at it. Unless, of course, you get the half plate of whoop-ass awesome sauceness, and the only thing you found for full plate so far is like a full plate +1, then go with a half plate. But I mean, if we're talking equal buffs or non-enchanted buffs, full plate's better than half plate's what we're basically saying. For banded, it looks bad because it's starting out the same, just like half plate. But notice that the touch attack, he's getting 11 to his 10. So already there, that's better. It's actually the same progression that the full plate gets for the touch attack. So we can actually get his touch attack up to 15. And while yes, it's still only a 22 here versus his 24, it's equal to the half plate and better in the touch attack than the half plate. So technically, for 1, 2, and 3 categories, full plate's number 1, banded would be number 2, half plate would be number 3. But now look at that was your heavy armor. Look at the middle armor class. This is where it gets weird. Notice the color scheme that I have here. Green means he's using his dexterity bonus to the best of his ability. That doesn't mean he's using all of his dex. What I mean is he's not suffering from having low dex, which is what you're seeing here. Okay, so at the very least, he is using some to all of his dex is in the green. Okay, if he's literally missing out, that literally means at this one level, and only this level, because it goes right back to being green, there's something that's going on where he doesn't have enough of a dexterity bump to get to what he needs to get the full armor that he could get. That's because he has at 15, the little underlined mark here lets you know that gave him the ability to use one more level of dexterity bonus. But he didn't get his dexterity increase until 16. That's why this level, and only this level, is subpar for breastplate. And it's not that big a deal. Over here, it happens again for scale mail. Same deal. It's actually the same exact type of armor, just less armor, if you will, for scale mail versus breastplate. So they're very similar. So again, at the same level, there's one level where he literally is suffering from not having a higher dex. And again, you can supplement that with magic spells, gear, potions, whatever. But it is subpar, and it will be great at the next level at 16. Chainmail never has this problem. Start to finish, it's great. 22 to 16 is better than the 22 to 15 that you're seeing up here for the banded. And that's chainmail. It's lighter to wear. It's easier on your body. You have less penalties from it. You get the idea. The chainmail is actually superior than, even though this is heavy versus light, or medium, excuse me. Chainmail is still superior. But I would still rock a breastplate. 22 to 15, 23 to 17. It's kind of a no-brainer, right? It's better both times. whereas chainmail is only better in the touch attack category. And this one even beats chainmail in the touch attack category. So breastplate would be your way to go on this category so far. Look at hide armor. Hide armor sucks a lot. There's this one spot right here where you don't have enough dex to benefit from all those little dex bonuses that you get from being a fighter. From here on, it just suffers. This green down here I just put is if max for this build. That's if you had the ability to enchant yourself with dexterity, a bigger dexterity bonus. You could actually at the very end of this build rock a 22 and an 18 for a touch attack. Now look at that. Here's our breastplate that I just told you would be the one that I would pick. It's a 23 at the end and a 17. Naturally, I don't have to do anything special. I already get it. And this is Tony's build now we're talking about. This one, if it's Tony's build and he did hide armor, he would be suffering unless he enchanted himself in some way with some extra dexterity. And 23 to 22 is not that big of a difference, just like 17 and 18 is not that big of a difference. So it's, again, which armor did you find that was better? Breastplate that was better, better hide armor. You know, if you find that better hide armor, pick it, and then just make sure you're using that dex bump. You only need a +2 bonus, a dexterity at +4 to make this worth getting. So easy enough to get with gear. From there, this is our light armor category, and again, start to finish, because Tony has access to all of them from start to finish. Chain shirt does well for a long while, has that dip right here, and then it just sucks. This is, again, analogous to the hide armor. It's the same exact kind of progression. And again, 22, 18, if you literally get some extra dexterity for this one. Chain shirt, which is one of the lightest things you can wear. It's pretty decent armor, and it gives you a really nice touch attack. Remember, look at our touch attack over here at 15, 14, 15. These are the heavy armor ones we're talking about. We can actually push this up to 18 if we get some dexterity on your character with some enchantments. So that's not bad. And at 22, while that 24 is looking a lot better than 22, that 18 is looking way better than its 15. So, you know, you can totally rock whatever you want for armor. You just got a plan for it, is what I'm basically telling you here. Studded leather suffers like almost immediately. And again, it can get to a 22 and 19. You got to have some decent dexterity bonuses to do that. Well, he's only one away here, which means he only needs a 2 dexterity increase. A 4 dexterity increase. Yeah. No? Am I doing that right? No, 2. Yeah, 2 for armor class. Derp. He only needs 2 dexterity increase to get this to max. This one will require a 4 dexterity increase to get to max. Okay? So that's, gear you'll find. That's not going to be hard. Up this level, you're not going to find it. But you can get it probably around the mid-levels of the game. +4 is not that difficult. Leather suffers from the start to finish for touch attack and the regular armor itself. You cannot benefit fully with his build from the dexterity he has. And remember, he's got a dexterity starting at 20. So he still don't gain the full benefit of wearing leather armor and his dexterity because of those fighter levels. Either the 3, the 7, the 11, the 15, they could add the extra dexterity bump to wearing the armor. He suffers from start to finish, and he would need to get 6 more dexterity to get the full effect. Get to padded, and again, it suffers from start to finish, and it's the same deal. Padded can be really amazing. Look at this. You can get to a 22 and a 21 for your touch attack. But now here's the thing. This above number here, the 22, 21, could be 23, 22 if you get your dexterity to 34 and up as a fighter. I don't know that that's even possible in this game. But if you could, and anyone that wants to theory craft that, feel free to check on that. So let's see, 34 subtract 8, because we know there's a +8 dexterity belt out there. So 34 would become 26. You can add 5 points to your character as you level up for dexterity, so you'd have to be a dex of 21 when you start. Put all your points in dex, I even wrote it down right here, and then get that +8 dex gear. And you could really rock a 23 armor class in padded armor, normal padded armor now, 23 armor class, and a 22 touch attack armor class, wearing nothing but generic padded armor and this. Yeah, that's pretty good. You go even higher, you throw something on like the braces of armor class +8, because those would stack with your dexterity. So you could be wearing the padded armor, normal stuff, and add an extra 8 to that. So this 23 to a 22 could go to a 31 and a 30 with bracers plus 8. Just saying. So that's all I got for you today. This is a long video, and I do apologize. We had 3 different builds to kind of go through here. But there's a lot of good stuff here. And again, I'm still not saying that Tony's build is subpar to mine. His would be consistent damage, good tanking ability, good armor class, great armor class, matter of fact. And that's without buffs or magical enchantments. His, like I said, it's a fighter. It does what it says on the tin. He kills things. That's what he's there for. It'll do that. And it'll probably do it more consistently than mine. I'll run out of spells. I'll run out of buffs on both of my builds. The Paladin can keep probably toe-to-toe for a while there, or be consistently decent because it is a good base attack bonus. But he'll suffer from armor. He'll suffer from other stuff that he won't have that the fighter will get. My Eldritch Archer will do great surge damage. It'll be amazing if you want to, like, I need to burn that thing down. Bzz, hit him with a spell that shoots through your arrows and just watch his fucking health melt. It'll be amazing. But in the long run, a long protracted fight, I still bank money on, in order of toughest to weakest. Tony's Archer would be the toughest. Probably the Paladin would be the next best, and then the Eldritch Archer would be the weakest. And again, I say that knowing that the Eldritch Archer has spells, but again, long duration here we're talking about. How long do your spells last? I mean, Displacement's great, but it's 1 round per caster level, and you can't cast as an Eldritch Scion. You can cast it multiple times in a day and have access to it if you need it. This is an Eldritch Archer where you have to pick your spell book, and it's, I have these 4 spells, and I'm not going to pick Displacement 4 times. I'll pick Displacement once or twice, use it when I need it, and then I use the other slot for something I do need, like strength or dex or whatever other buff or attack I need. So the Eldritch Archer, great surge damage. The Paladin, great for healing and buffing and helping the team. It's a team support player. Tony's build, great fighter. I mean, really, he's built it for what it's supposed to be. Could it be better? Sure. Could there be tweaks that he could do to it that make it better? Okay, yeah, sure. I would grab dodge, for instance. I'd lose 1 or 2 of his critical feat things that he had that he even was it Vital Strike? I think he had. He can lose that, put dodge in, and he could go even better than what he's got right now. Yeah, I'd honestly give him, if he didn't pick it, I'd give him toughness as another feat. Because why the hell not? I mean, you're going to be in full plate mail based on my numbers here. It'll be either full plate mail or you're going to be rocking something like really silly, like some dex bonuses and some padded armor and some braces of armor class, and have like an amazing armor class. But you're still going to get hit. So I would get toughness on his build just so he can get some extra hit points, especially seeing as he's took the -8 to his -2 penalty to his constitution, knocking it down to 8. But with all of that, my name is Brother Mutant. Please like, subscribe, comment down below. Share this with your friends if you think that they would find this interesting. Tell me what you guys think. Was my math off on stuff? I'm sure there's stuff that I haven't accounted for. I did my best to think of everything, every contingency. And of course, debuffs are going to be applicable, buffs are going to be applicable, but this is just general neutral stuff. Remember, non-magic gear, non-magic buffs, what can they do with just a composite longbow and some non-enchanted armor is basically what we're saying. But with that, I'll see you guys soon. Bye now.